In this episode of Mistaken Identity, Matt interviews Shiv Ramji, President of Customer Identity Cloud at Okta. At Okta, Shiv focuses on seamless and secure customer experiences. He's responsible for the Customer Identity Cloud product, data, security, and technology strategy and execution. Today, Shiv describes the holistic customer journey, how to trust your product intuition, and why storytelling matters for building great products. Today's episode of Mistaken Identity is brought to you by Okta. We do identity so you can do you. Find us at okta.com.
All right, welcome to this week's episode of Mistaken Identity. I am very excited today to be joined by Shiv Ramji, who's President of Customer Identity Cloud at Okta. Shiv, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, really excited to have you join us today. I think you provide a lot of very relevant, insight and experience, obviously, on customer identity in general. But I'm familiar with Okta. Obviously, we're both employees of Okta. But for our listeners, could you explain maybe a bit more about what Okta does and what your role as President of the Customer Identity Cloud at Okta entails?
At the very basic level, what we're focused on at Okta is really to make sure we're giving you a seamless and secure experience. And how does that manifest itself? Well, there are a couple of use cases, and I'll start with sort of the most obvious ones, or the ones that Okta started the company, or sort of the products and company around, which was securing access for employees. So, for example, many of us who go to work, there's a good chance, especially if you're in the software industry or even other industries, you use anywhere between 10 to 20 applications per day to get your job done. And so we provide sort of a seamless and secure way to access those applications in the cloud. The second one is providing seamless and secure access for your customers. And your customers could be businesses, right? So for example, you might be a software company selling to other businesses. So that's one example. Another example is your customers are your customers or consumers, so meaning they're not businesses, but they're consumers accessing your product directly. So examples there include companies like Peloton or Headspace or Wall Street Journal or the different airlines and banks that we work with. You access all of those applications, and usually the front door or the gate is usually the login box. And so we provide a safe, sort of a seamless and secure way to access those applications. 8 out of 10 applications that you used right before listening to this podcast was probably secured and powered by Okta in some way. So I'm just always blown away by the number of apps I am accessing every day. And I'm like, oh yeah, they're a customer. And so it's fascinating that there are a lot of interactions that are happening on a daily basis, that you are having on a daily basis, that are powered by our products.
Okta is really experiencing incredible growth. And I think, as you mentioned, there's a really good chance that a lot of the applications that you already use today are powered by Okta in terms of that login experience. But what else do you think is really going into fueling Okta's incredible growth?
Yeah, there's some trends that obviously we're benefiting from. I think the first one is just we're still very early stages of cloud adoption. Now the numbers are pretty large. I mean, if you just look at the revenue from these cloud platforms, it's pretty mind-boggling. But there is something like we're only like 10 or 12% penetrated in this entire market. And so just cloud adoption and digital transformation is sort of one big reason why we're experiencing growth. The second one is security is increasingly becoming complex. Attacks and malicious attackers and hackers are getting very, very clever and coming up with all kinds of nefarious ways to attack your systems or steal credentials from your customers and the like. And so just security is really a big concern. I mean, even in this environment where spending is generally being scrutinized, budgets are tighter, but you still see survey after survey in the industry that security is still a top area for spend, and specifically identity within that context is really, really important. So security is a really big trend. The third one I would say is the realization that I think customers have come to, which is like This stuff is just hard.
Yeah.
It is hard. It starts out like, oh yeah, it's just a login box. Gets very, very complex very quickly. And so I think a lot of customers end up realizing like this is not something we wanna build or manage. And over time, obviously, using a third-party service that's dedicated. I mean, we have 6,000 people who are dedicated to this problem. And so there is also this idea of like, I don't want to build and manage this anymore. I should just use a provider like Okta, so I can accelerate the innovation that matters to me. And then the other one just tends to be around, there's a lot of changes happening in regulation and compliance. If you're in highly regulated industries, there are quite a bit of requirements, whether it's the federal government or banks or healthcare, or just if you're a global company operating in different geographies, you have to abide by the different privacy laws, and those also are evolving quite a bit. And so customers don't want to necessarily keep up with all of that. It just costs a lot, and that's why they sort of turn to providers like us and others to help them out.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. It's staying on that concept of security and that macro trend there for a while, because I think it's really important. If you think about how product managers can improve the security of that user experience, what are some things do you think that they should be thinking about implementing to improve the security of their application?
So first, if you are using usernames and passwords, it's pretty crazy that in 2023, I still see login experiences where they don't do basic password checks or hygiene. They don't provide alert you if you're using a password that was detected in a breach or in the dark web. And so those are some basics, right? Which is if you're going to use username and password, just make sure password hygiene, make sure that, you're informing consumers if they're using a password that was detected in a breach. Like you got to make sure that you are doing that. Then the second thing is there's this usually misconception that if you enable this tighter security or better security, or in this case, let's just talk about step-up authentication. If you had MFA, for example, that friction is bad for the consumer and for your conversions and the like. And I think the myth there is that it's a compromise. Like if you try to get better security, you're going to compromise on convenience, and if you try to keep the convenience, meaning frictionless experience, that you're going to give up on security. And I think our product specifically allows customers who are responsible for these login experiences, they don't have to compromise between the two. A lot of consumers today have these devices that have biometrics on them, and so I urge a lot of our customers and PMs who are working on setting this up to try and build a passwordless experience from the get-go. And so whether that's using biometrics, in the future we will have the ability to use passkeys once they are rolled out on all of the platforms. I think those are sort of the ways that at least we're encouraging customers to think about and make sure that when they do implement it, they're thinking about these experiences and leveraging these new capabilities.
Yeah, you hit on so many things there. You hit on obviously balancing those really three forces, I think, together: the security, the privacy, and the convenience of the user experience all together. That's such an important point. And you obviously also mentioned, I think, some things that folks can think about implementing in their application in order not only to improve security, but also to improve the customer experience. Things like passkeys, being less reliant on passwords in general, I think, is the future that I want to sign up for. And that's something that I want to be, I want to be a part of for sure. Thinking about maybe the customer experience as well, because you gave us some really great insight into some of the security controls that product managers can implement in their application. What are some things that product managers who are building applications or maybe unifying that customer experience, what kinds of things can they do to make, the customer experience so much better for their end users?
I think that it comes down to like, you need to think through all the pathways that your customers are going to experience the product, where and when to get them to sign in or sign up. And so, and there are a lot of specific details. Like, for example, a lot of times you'd think like, what's so complicated about a password reset flow? Well, it turns out when it's not done well, it can be very frustrating. So So think of all of your customer journeys holistically, and there are ways to really configure, all of these touch points, whether it's sign up, sign in, reset flows. When do you add step up authentication, and then this is just like the basics, right? Which is everything around the login box, and there is so much more that you have to do. So some common things that you can do once you've got the login box right, or you've got your identity right, which is think about progressive profiling. There's so many experiences where, when you're signing up, they'll ask you to fill out like 15 fields. Well,
Nightmare.
Why do I need to give all of my information away, right? And I love this quote from our SVP of marketing, Carrie. She said, setting up the login box is a little bit like, or signing up is a little bit of like dating. Like you don't give up all your details on the first date, right? And so I like that. That quote really stuck with me because it's like, ask for information from consumers in return for something. So for example, and I'll use our product as an example. So for example, if we asked a developer signing up to a product and say, hey, can you tell us more about maybe your experience or the languages that you're using or the stack you're building, then we can offer them an amazing onboarding experience because essentially we will give them the SDKs or onboarding guides that are relevant to the application or stack or language that they're focused on. So that is a good use of collecting information in return for something. And so I think you have to think about progressive profiling in that way, and you don't have to collect all this information up front. You can do it progressively over time. So that tends to be like something that product managers may not think about right away when they're setting up the login experience, but it's something that you may do down the line. The other thing that product managers don't often think about is, they'll look at overall analytics for their application, and a lot of times they don't look at the drop-off that's happening on sign-up or login. And so I think, we're doing more and more to provide insights to our customers to understand the full funnel. What are the bounce rates? Like, where are customers dropping off? What geographies are they dropping off from? So I think that's a really important part to get right too, which is understanding the analytics around your login flow. And then finally, also using, if when login systems are done well, they can really inform things like doing A/B tests, and so they power that experience down the line too. And so I think, again, hopefully I'm highlighting what starts out as like designing a login box, and the branding around it quickly becomes a lot more complex, and over time, you're using this information or identity from a login box to power a lot of the experiences down the line.
Yeah, one of the things that really resonated for me in what you said there is this concept of a value exchange between the customer and the brand or the business, right? I think that's really important because we think about like privacy and we think about the protection of data and the third-party cookies going away and it becoming harder to build a customer profile. And privacy doesn't mean the death of personalization, right? It means you need to think, and customers, they want to provide their information to better personalize their experience, provided there's a value exchange there. It just needs to be done in a consent-forward way so that your customers know what that data is being used for, that, as you mentioned, you're building trust with them over time. Things like progressive profiling can really help with that. You don't want to ask a massive field at login or sign up. That's a terrible experience for everyone. But if you could do that over time and build up the consent, it's consent forward. You can build up the data and the customer knows what it's being used for. And then you can create personalization that builds that value exchange. I think that's really key. And that's something that really stuck out for me in what you said there.
Yep.
Thinking about how customers, really like how businesses can leverage customer identity to improve things like adoption, retention, engagement of their products overall, right? You talked about a few of these things, but maybe just more concretely, what are some strategies that product managers can use to leverage customer identity, that knowledge, in order to provide a better customer experience overall?
Progressively profiling customers. So that's personalization. We've kind of touched on that. You can do that. Mm-hmm. I talked about sort of analytics and how that powers sort of A/B testing. So that's the other Other thing is, you constantly want to market to your customers. And so one other downstream capability of customer identity is that you're able to connect to downstream business systems. Now you may be thinking, well, what business systems are those? Several. So one, I can share a few examples. So let's start with, you may be signing up customers that you want to sell to later. So you might be using a CRM system. So we provide integrations with different CRM systems. So that's one example. Another example is you may be signing up users, or maybe signing up users so that they can try a product later, or you want to market to them or notify them. So there is ongoing customer marketing that you're doing. So in this case, we would connect to marketing technology systems so that, as soon as you log in or as soon as you sign up, that information flows into marketing technology stacks, and so they can send you relevant product updates or newsletters. Or there are other additional systems you may want to think about. So for example, if you're selling a product that requires identity verification, so say for example you're an app that's delivering wine to every state in the US, well, state laws require you to verify the age of the purchaser, and so you may want to implement some identity verification into your application, or when the consumer is making a purchase, and so that might be another interesting sort of connection that you may do to make sure that you're able to verify whether somebody's eligible to purchase alcohol, tobacco, or what have you. And then there are other interesting systems too. Like there are certain class of products that get, they get a lot of abuse. So for example, when I was at DigitalOcean, we used to have a lot of customers who would steal credit cards. We had a lot of hackers rather would steal different credit card information and come and sign up for cloud computing. So we also had like free credits. So they would abuse those credits, and then sometimes they would pay for cloud computing using the stolen credit cards. So they're a pretty big fraud and abuse team, and so there are a lot of products that have these class of problems, and so you may actually connect to a fraud and abuse detection system, and again, that may be a connection you make immediately with your customer identity implementation. So these are like 4 or 5 varied examples of what you may want to do, and so and in all of this, I think you can see like customer identity plays such a central role, right? Like if you don't get that right, you're not going to be able to do all of these other downstream things, and so I think it's really critical to make sure that that you implement this correctly. So that you can get the benefits of all of these other use cases and needs that either your team has or some other stakeholder team that may care about.
Identity, while central to delivering all of these things, it's really complex, right? For all the things that you just mentioned, you need to think about SSO, you need to think about MFA, you need to think about social logins and how you connect to a CRM as an example, right? I like to think about it as almost the cross stitch, right? At the front of it is this amazing, application interface, and it's got, a beautiful picture of a cat, in a sunset. But behind it is this spider web of connections and systems and all of these integrations and things that your internal team needs to maintain. And that complexity is huge, and it really starves innovation. And I'd love your thoughts on, like, how do you balance innovation and, delivering new products when you're thinking about building systems?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And by the way, I might add to what you just said. You have to do all of this complex spider web behind the beautiful, I think, cat photo that you mentioned in your app. Great reference, by the way.
Could be a dog. It doesn't matter. I'm not partial. Turtles, whatever you like.
Whatever you're into. I agree. But I think what I want to build there is, by the way, you have to do all of this in very low latency, in milliseconds, right? Like all of these web of connections, tokens, the customization or the fraud and abuse. Look, these things have to happen within milliseconds, because your consumers aren't going to be waiting on the login page, right? So I think that's really important. It's not only that you have to do all these complex things, but you do them at low latency, at pretty high scale, depending on the type of product that you have. And then you need all of your login systems to be up and reliable, meaning if your login box is down, you're toast. Like your customers can access any of your products, right? So I think I just wanted to add that I think a lot of teams that I talk to often overlook the complexity of scale, availability, low latency, and it's really hard to build systems that can do that. So back to your question around how do I balance sort of innovation with maybe more table stakes that we're working on. I think, so when you're building an enterprise product, so a couple of things, principles that so even, we have 12, 24-month roadmaps that we communicate to our customers. But I always sort of know that, about 20% of that roadmap will need to change. And what I mean by that is when you're building products for enterprises, you need to have some flexibility. So, for example, you may have a feature that you've slated 2-3 quarters out, but the nature of selling to enterprises, sometimes maybe that feature is required sooner for a customer or for a prospect. And so you have to sort of move things around. A portion of your roadmap will be governed by some unique case that initially only is required for 1 or 2 customers, and then later down the line you may realize, wow, this is an emerging pattern, so we may want to do this for everyone, right, and productize it. So that's one sort of principle that I encourage our teams to have. The second one on innovation is in general, I ask all teams to innovate. And the biggest misconception I see within teams about innovation is it's this new shiny thing. Like it has to be this amazing, like big bang thing. Not all companies are Apple and introducing an iPhone or a new headset.
New goggles. Yeah.
Of course, that is new and big, bold innovation, of course. But innovation happens every day. And so I encourage our teams to think about innovation at all levels and all sizes. So, for example, recently, I asked our team, we were doing some optimizations for our platform. And just like every other companies, they're looking at their cloud span and optimizing their platforms. And so we tasked our engineering teams to think about ways we can, reduce our cloud footprint and cost. And we just said, hey, this is generally the goal that we want to go after. And any and all creative ideas are welcome. And so the team independently sort of figured out creative ways to reduce our cloud costs, and so there is creativity and innovation there already, right? Now we don't call that innovation, or we may not be labeled it that way, but really that's what it is. So we encourage everybody to do things like that in small ways every day within their sprints. And then we also have, at least in our business, we do have problems that, probably reside beyond that 18 to 24 month roadmap or timeline that we have. And so we have a small labs team that's constantly thinking about new technologies, new experiences, and new innovations that we can incubate there. And then once they're ready, sort of bring them back. So one example of this model that we implemented, so we, over a little over 12 to 14 months ago, this team sort of took on the challenge of building a scalable authorization solution. So they looked at the Project Zanzibar paper from Google, which was published. They took that paper and then essentially built an open source product out of it, and so now the team is working on bringing that product. It's currently in early access and beta, and will be going to general availability later this year. So that is an example of like incubating something completely new that was on a different timeline and horizon, and so we had a dedicated team sort of go figure that out. So we do have sort of different models for innovation. Depending on the needs and what necessitates that. But I think the biggest one is, I think, encouraging innovation at all levels and in all teams on a daily.
And that's all around fine-grained authorization. That's the example that you just gave there, Google's Zanzibar project. Yeah, I think there's, you mentioned obviously scale and response time and that's one of the components and elements really around fine grained authorization is developing that authorization at scale. I think that's a really cool thing that the team has developed. What about even thinking about some of the things that the team that the product delivery team at Okta has really delivered from a customer identity cloud perspective over the last year? What would you say like you're most proud of the team, in addition to I think the fine grained authorization, some of those elements? What else is you think really cool that the team has brought to life?
We have sort of focused, in general, identity is a horizontal problem, meaning regardless of what geography you're in, what vertical, what size of company, your needs tend to be similar. But in certain regulated industries, I'd mentioned earlier in our conversation around financial services, there are some specific APIs that are coming up and protocols that we need to support that are very unique to financial services. So, you may, our audience may have heard of open banking or just concepts of open finance in general. So the financial services industry is being sort of disrupted at all levels. And there is this idea that, consumers want to own their data, they want to make data portable. And so there are a lot of standards coming out, especially in Europe and Asia Pacific. There's sort of open banking adoption. And so one of the things I'm really excited about is that we took a very intentional approach to solving for this vertical. And so our roadmap around supporting open finance in general and all the standards that come along with, FAPI profiles and PSD2 and open banking protocol is sort of is really exciting. So we've started delivering on that. We currently have a beta running for a few customers. And so I think that's really exciting to be able to bring that capability and serve this segment well and this emerging trend of open finance.
That's really cool. And obviously we have a whole team that's working on just solving that one challenge, right? What would be the risk, or what would be some of the challenges of a company trying to do this with their own in-house team, right?
Just the heavy lift of supporting all these protocols and keeping up with them is a lot of work. That work alone could consume a few engineers on your team, and not to mention all the other aspects, right? But scale, privacy, consent, like all of the things that we were talking about. This would easily consume a few engineers if you were going to do this on your own, and then you have to keep up with all the updates. Not to mention security patches and vulnerabilities, right? So we handle all of that for our customers, and so that really takes the burden away from them. What they really care about is implement is amazing consumer experience that they want to deliver from a financial services perspective, and not have to worry about strong customer authentication and supporting all these different protocols. And then keeping up with the security updates and patches there just is a lot of work. So anyway, there is a body of work around supporting financial services that I think I'm really excited about, and we've done some really amazing work and continue to do so. So that's something customers can use, excuse me, and can experience once we roll that out. The second area I think that I'm really excited about is and it's being delivered in parts, but I want to share like the full vision, and I'll share what we've done to date. So one of the things that we want to do is we are constantly helping security professionals or CISOs and SecOps teams by protecting them from breaches and attacks and the like. And one of the beautiful things about the product is once you turn that on, it just does it for you. So it's protecting you from millions of bot attacks on a daily basis. So the thing that we ultimately want to deliver, or at least I challenge the team to think through, is that, look, CISOs are really stretched. They are constantly being attacked, and cybersecurity threats are everywhere. And they usually don't have enough teams, or may not have enough budgets. And a lot of these cyber attacks become a board concern. So how might we empower the CISO or the security champion, whether they're a SecOps, and make them the hero, right? So that was sort of the problem statement. And so we're going to deliver this in parts, and the end state being, wouldn't it be nice if you're a CISO of a global company and you get an email in your inbox on a Friday from Okta that says, hey, don't worry, these are the types of attacks that you had on your platform. We blocked 99% of them or 100% of them, and you can sleep easy tonight. Your whole tenant and setup is protected. And if we do this, whether it's every Friday, monthly, quarterly reporting, I bet you CISOs will take this reporting to board meetings, into audit committees, and say, hey, look, I work with a vendor that really protects us and supports us. So that's the end state that we want to deliver. So, but the thing that we've just released recently is called Security Center. And it's a very intuitive, simple way to visualize how your identity security setup and how these products that you've enabled, how they're working for you and on your behalf. And so we've got a lot of customers who are excited about that. And again, this is just like the first step of many to get to that end state vision. And so I'm really excited that I think in the next, if I project out in a year or so, we will have all these amazing tools and analytics and systems and reporting for CISOs so that they can be the hero and make them the champion or make them the heroes in these very difficult situations.
I feel like that's such an important point with CISOs. They have so much to think about, right? From network to endpoint to cloud to containers to identity and phishing and breaches and all these things that keep them up at night. Like I often think, vendors need to think about providing soft pillows so they can sleep at night. And Security Center, I do view as one of those soft pillows because I think it gives you visibility into an area of the business that CISOs are typically blind to or that they don't have the ability to see. And identity level threats, especially credential related threats, is like the number one attack vector, right? And a lot of the CISOs don't have visibility into that, which is just, it's crazy. So Security Center, obviously giving that visibility, I think is really important for providing that soft pillow for CISOs, but also looking at other ways that we can elevate the visibility and make that, like you said, a real strong boardroom opportunity, not even a challenge. It's really the boardroom now has the opportunity to look across the posture and say, what is going on with my identity security? And something really cool too that I think the team just introduced as well is the identity threat level, right? Which in a similar fashion to Security Center, it's looking at automated attacks like, scripted attacks, credential stuffing, bot attacks specifically, and helping to provide a metric on the likelihood that a bot attack is going to hit a region, an industry, right? Like healthcare or retail, et cetera. And that makes it even more relevant for the CISOs as well when you do take that level of reporting to say, we stopped all of these bot attacks. And also, here is how our peers are being targeted by automated attacks and what we need to do to further tune our defenses, I just think is so critical for that audience.
The thing is, usually you're a CISO is in a boardroom when things are bad. And I want to flip that. How about the other 99% of the time when things were protected, were blocked, we were in a better position. So I think just visibility into that kind of makes their job easier. And the last thing I'll talk about in terms of innovation and stuff, and this is something that happens behind the scenes, so might be a very technical part of this discussion, but I want to share it nonetheless because I think I'm incredibly proud of the work that our team has done here, which is we've been working on a complete revamp of our platform that powers our products. And so we've been migrating our customers over from sort of legacy platforms onto the new one. And the thing I'm proud of the most there is, we're able to deliver better availability and uptime and reliability. We're able to scale the product pretty significantly. So if you're a consumer app growing like crazy, or you have seasonal traffic, we're able to handle pretty impressive scale as a result of that. And it also comes with really cool disaster recovery and failover options, right? And so if you're buying a product, kind of like batteries included, like there is a lot of stuff that's coming with that platform that really makes the whole product that much more reliable and robust. So that's a little bit under the covers, not visible to anybody, but still worth calling out the benefits to our customers.
Yeah, I feel like the product folks listening to this episode will really appreciate that as well. Additionally, for maybe the product folks as well, just thinking about folks that are building applications or experiences or new products in general, one of the things that I think like product managers, product delivery folks often struggle with is, how do I know I'm building the right thing?
I'll share some insights from, again, these are some product philosophies that I have that might be counter to maybe what you may have heard from other leaders. And I think, so I often think of, from a product manager, there are a lot of, and it also depends on the stage and maturity of your company and product. So the answer, a lot of times, if you're an early stage company or product, like you may not have that many customers. And so a lot of the decisions you're going to make there are out of the qualitative or anecdotal research, maybe just your gut instinct to get to sort of a product market fit. So kind of a different set of problems there. You're not going to have a lot of data. I think your qualitative and intuition kind of matters a lot. If you are a product that has product market fit and hundreds or even thousands of customers or hundreds of thousands of customers, it's a different problem, right? So you're going to switch to probably 70% of the decisions you're going to make will be quantitative information. Like you have insights, you have analytics, you have usage data, and you can make those decisions. I still believe for a product manager, again, there's a 70% of the decisions you'll make that will have hard data. About 10 to 15 will be qualitative information, right? I did some research, I sent out a survey, 14 people responded. So, I feel good, that we're going in the right direction. And then there is still a portion of decisions, and it's anywhere between 10 to 15% that as a product leader or product manager, like comes down to your intuition, your gut, your own sort of, and I like to say it's like taste, like what, you can't just read books and become a product manager out of the gate. It's usually great product leaders or managers have good taste in the end. And so I think when you're building products, there's a portion of decisions that will come down to your intuition, your experience, or just your taste of what good looks like, right? And so that's how I think of like using data to make decisions, and using data to essentially know whether you're going after the right outcome. Yeah, 70% of the decisions that we are making, there is hard evidence and data and analysis behind it. I would say still 15% of the decisions we make, probably based on research or survey or more qualitative information. And I still make 10 to 15% of the decisions on a daily basis that are just about just having good product taste or product sense.
Yeah, and I think having good taste or even good judgment, like you mentioned, is such an underrated product management skill as well, right?
Yeah.
What are some other underrated product management skills you think are really good for product managers to have?
Great product managers are really good at aligning the team. And a big portion of your job is to take messy data or insights or information or feedback from customers, from internal teams, and really boiling it down to the essence that matters, and then aligning the team around that insight. You gotta be a great communicator and a great storyteller. Behind every great product that you know or that you use or have experienced, there is great storytelling behind it. Yeah, product managers don't necessarily think of that as their job, and I think it's really critical. You have to be a storyteller for your own internal teams, for your stakeholders, for your partner teams such as marketing, all the way to externally to customers. You got to be able to pitch and tell the story of why you're doing what you're doing, or why this product needs to exist. And so I think those are some underrated skills that product managers don't think about that I think are worth highlighting.
I love that storytelling component. I think that is so critical. And even outside of product management, I think it's critical in business in general is telling great stories, right? Like from in a product concept, people don't buy the product, they buy the story, like the story, the outcome, how it's going to make my life easier, how it's going to take me on this journey from the problem I have today to the solution or the outcome it's going to drive. That's really what they're buying at the end of the day is that story. I think that's such a good point, such an underrated skill. Really good. Thinking a bit about the future, and just innovation and some things that maybe you're excited about for this year, for Okta and for the product delivery team. What are some things that you're really pumped about? What gets you excited? When you're thinking about the future and some things in the industry that you really think is going to help our customers and us to tell great stories.
I think just seeing the evolution of passkeys, I think is really, really important. It really helps us to get to this passwordless future that we want to, that we're all striving for. So I'm really excited about that and supporting that. The second one is around some of the evolution that's happening around what I call identity data that's locked in the analog or offline world. And so examples of that tend to be obviously your driver's license or state ID, passports, visas, and so on and so forth. So we have this concept. We have been experimenting with sort of verifiable credentials now for a while. And I think as these new platforms such as, and I think Apple and Google are working on this, they're going to be onboarding more and more states to have your ID kind of available in your phone wallet, in your digital wallet. And I think that's the beginning of a journey of onboarding a lot of identity information that's locked up in offline silos to become digital. And so I'm pretty bullish that there's going to be a time when you're going to be able to pick and choose what data you want to share with an app and what type of verification you want to provide. And you'll be able to use, just your phone, or your apps to do all of it. And so I think that's really, really exciting. And what's exciting about that, if you're a product manager or if you're just a listener, is that you'll be able to build these amazing experiences. I mean, can you imagine no more walking around with your paper transcripts and degrees and insurance cards and identity or state ID cards? I mean, imagine all of that in your digital wallet, and you having the capability to decide what information you would like to share with an application and for what purposes. And I think so I'm really excited about what that world looks like and what role we can play in that to make sure that we're making it easy for our customers to deliver these seamless experiences, but then also making sure that consumers get to experience.
I love that. Like verifiable credentials just in general. And I think the digitization of analog credentials as you kind of mentioned, that's such an amazing, potential, I think, of that technology there, right? Where you really get to meet your customers where they are, right? Enable them to log into the applications in understood ways based on how they want to log in, right? And making it really easy for them to do that. Not everyone's going to have a Facebook account. Not everyone's going to have a phone number. So, from an experience perspective and even a security perspective, I think, leveraging that concept of verifiable credentials to really meet your customers with that experience where they are at that right time, I think is really exciting. What about maybe a really high level technology trend that you're interested in, or something that you're watching that you think is going to really impact the industry?
We're all engulfed with the AI wave. So it's
a prerequisite, I think, for the show. You have to say AI.
You have to say AI. Yeah. How many times have you? Okay, we got one in. I'm only joking, but I think no, I think it is. I think the excitement is real. I think the benefits are pretty impactful when done well. Look, there are a lot of issues around AI and ethics and copyright and ownership and a whole bunch of stuff, which I'm not going to litigate here. But I think what I am going to highlight is that it will allow us to, there's obviously internal efficiency, so there is that, but I think we can also build better product experiences. So my team and I, we are experimenting with a few concepts already, and I'm excited that, in about a quarter or two, we will have stuff to share about how we are bringing the power of large language models or to improve sort of the product experience. And it could be everything from giving you better answers, helping you set up your apps quickly, maybe better onboarding, even better support. I mean, there are so many areas that we can embed AI into our products to make the product that much better. So it's something that is top of mind. I'm thinking about it quite a bit. We're experimenting and we're playing with different concepts. And looking forward to introducing some of that into our products, into the future roadmap.
It's super exciting. Couple quick fun questions, and then we'll get you on your way here.
Sure.
What's something you're either watching or reading right now?
Well, I just ended Succession, so
Yes,
everybody's been watching
awesome.
Succession, and there's a joke running around that we could have our own because my name is Shiv, and they're like, "Hey, we already have a Shiv on the team." My team is pretty funny. So that, and then in terms of reading, I've been reading Green Lights, which is Matthew McConaughey's sort of bumper sticker style memoir, I guess. It's really funny. So I'm enjoying that.
I'll have to check that out. If you could live anywhere in the world, where would that be?
I think New York. I mean, where I live, typically New York is pretty good. But if I'd have a second choice, I love Spain. So anywhere in Spain would be lovely.
Very nice. Last question: where can the listeners, everyone, find you online? Where's the best spot?
Twitter. That's where I'm the most active, and I consume a lot of content and post every once in a while. So Twitter is the best place to find me. And I don't know what I was thinking when I was creating my handle, but it's the handle is @ThinkShiv. Don't ask me why I came up with that because it'll be embarrassing probably. So that's where you can find me.
There you go. So mention Shiv on Twitter, ask him where he came up with his handle, engage in the conversation. Shiv, I want to thank you very much for joining us today on the Mistaken Identity podcast. Really great conversation. And thanks to everyone who tuned in today.
Thanks for having me, Matt.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Mistaken Identity, a podcast brought to you by Okta. As the leading independent identity partner, we free everyone to safely use any technology, anywhere, on any device or app. Find us at okta.com.